is this Mike from around the world?
Yes, it is, Pastor Paul. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm blessed and highly favored. Thank you, Mike. I know we didn't have a chance to... I just got home at 2 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't get to ability to contact you during the travels yesterday and everything. But really glad you're willing to take the time here and come on and help us.
Yeah, I got alerted that you were looking for me, and so here I am.
Well, Mike, thank you so much. Now, have you seen the YouTube video by both Dutch Sense and BP Earthwatch on the what looks like a mega wave of energy?
No, I haven't. I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Well, I am now, but I wasn't before.
Okay,
I haven't seen their videos yet.
Okay, well then, let me share just quickly. Dutch Sense, this was a little bit after midnight Sunday night. I think around, believe it or not, he quotes the time, 12:26 a.m., which is funny because you've been saying on 12:26 of December, a wave is going to hit. But at 12:26 a.m., just after midnight, early Monday morning, a global wave of energy off the charts on the microwavable meter. I'm not saying it correct. It is he shows it as it comes. It is incredible. He is stunned. Now he even admits he's not into what he says are conspiracy theories. He doesn't get into politics or even religion. But he said, I have to apologize because he says BP Earthwatch has been talking. He called it BP Earthwatch and crew, which I assume meant me and you, Mike. We're crew. I think he was saying that, look, these guys have been talking about this wave of energy, but Dutch Sense has avoided the subject because there was he had access to no scientific ability to read it. But after this wave hit, he's saying, look, he even starts laughing at one point to say, yeah, this is just unbelievable, because he said, there's no way, nothing could cause a wave this huge to show up on this reading. And he does apologize to BP, matter of fact. He didn't have to do that because he really never said anything bad. He was just saying, if you know. But the thing is, Mike, the BP has done a video since then showing us the same waves, but on different readings. The magnetosphere, off the charts. This thing comes from the opposite direction of the sun. It's off the charts, way stronger than October. And so I guess we want to get you on to find out, was this the wave that you're talking about coming December 26th, or is this just a prelude to what's about to happen?
I would say those are ripples, maybe some small ripples, very tiny ripples, of these charged particles coming in, burst pulses of them. And it will continue to increase. That's what I was talking about last time, is that it will come in slowly like that. Okay. And then it will begin to increase over time. Now, what the effects on the 26th, I guess that many people are debating what should they do for the 26th. That's actually a threshold date where we'll begin to look for other things. It will certainly begin to affect the planet, but there will be no catastrophe on the 26th unless we lose our magnetosphere. That wouldn't be good.
Yeah, that'd be horrible.
That's when we cross a threshold. There's I have an updated list of target dates from the intensity of these things.
Can I write these down? Can I write these down? And can you share them? That
has changed. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to publish a page where it alters, because it's dynamic. It's not quite static. These pulses are interacting with magnetics and everything else, which will change the intensity of let's just say the waves coming in, the sub-waves within the big wave, they're going to begin to change. But they can't be narrowed down to the exact time when they will hit each and every time. So I'm going to publish a special page. I'll give you access to it. And not everybody's going to have access to it. It'll be dynamic, which means it'll change as the information changes, as the observation changes. Now, because it's going to be important to know. They probably, I'm wondering, did they capture something above the microwave bandwidth there?
The microwave band was what Dutch Sense captured, and he shows it on his YouTube video. It is extraordinary. And then BP talks about it being a proton wave, a proton, and he shows it on the magnetosphere charts, as well as talks about it being a proton burst.
Okay. Now, one of the here's what we have when you're dealing with these things coming into the Earth like this. It's still, you know, that was really nothing. I just have to put it to you that way. That's nothing. That's minuscule. That's tiny. Because some of those ripples they're so heavily charged that our entire atmosphere will light up with auroras. And so when you begin to see that, the atmosphere light up with auroras, I mean all around the globe, well then you know you're going to have to prepare for something, okay? As long as the atmosphere is not charged up like this, now it will change inside the Earth. It will. In fact, you know, the science is catching up with us a little bit. That there's a theory about the dynamo inside of the Earth, and now they have Europe has what's called swarm satellites, and they have mapped the rotation of the interior of the Earth, moving westward, going around clockwise, and that momentum has been sustained, and they're trying to figure out the dynamics of that movement so that if there's a collapse in the magnetosphere, they can go in and correct it very fast. They're trying desperately to get this done because they know that these charged particles are breaching, that they have breached everything. It's too much intensity behind them. And if they captured, whatever they captured was likely just a little above the microwave band, but it's not intense. What would be intense is when X-rays begin to diminish our just everything. You're looking at things that can seriously affect satellites. They can cause static discharges. That would effectively be an EMP type event on the face of the Earth, and it would surely affect the sun. So, but these are pulses that are going to last for at least 2 years, and it's going to be very difficult for people without the proper optics to actually narrow down and get the point of origin because of the dynamics of how this thing is shifting and moving about. So you're looking at high-speed collisions in space, and then we're going to feel them here on the planet. So the 26th, the 25th, and 26th, that is the threshold of which this radiation begins to pour in. It'll begin to pour in. So within 3 to 4 months, people are going to have health issues because that radiation is going to affect your bones, the bone marrow, which is that's your blood manufacturing center, right?
Yeah.
And so they have dosimetric mapping systems that will detect that. And these are different systems they had to put on the ISS so they can see what type of shielding we need on the space station. So in saying that, we're gonna have some effects from this thing, and then not to mention the effects of the Earth. There will be cracks in this planet that we've just not had before, and it's going to continue. It'll just it's going to be like a storm. It starts to sprinkle. It gets heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. Then it slows down just a bit, but it's raining the whole time, and then it gets heavier and heavier until it reaches to a point where you really won't have to convince anyone or tell anyone something is wrong up there.
You know, Mike, we talked a few days before this wave hit, You and I were on the phone for about an hour, and Heidi took a bunch of notes while we were talking, and she typed those up, and I've shared just a little bit of this with the audience. I forgot which night I did that. I can't remember. It might have been last week, late last week. And there's more that you said. And you'll need to watch Dutch Sense's video, which is about a 12-minute video, and you'll need to watch BP Earthwatch's video, okay? Because they both show this wave. It is a big deal, like you've been saying. Here's the thing, what I've been noticing. I've been getting letters from people saying, Begley, what is your deal? Nothing's happening. There was nothing catastrophic. The 26th is going to come and go. No big deal. You guys, and then they kind of go off on me, you, and BP, or anyone else out there that even talks about it, because people can't see radiation. They can't realize that we had a 12% spike last year in radiation coming upon. So they don't realize that what has already just come upon us in the last 48 hours is an immense amount of energy. And as this piles on, to your point, as it piles on, it's going to affect the core of the earth. It's going to affect the earth itself, but it's going to affect people. I mean, people are going to get overexposure of radiation, which is a biblical prophecy even in the book of Revelation. Mike, so you know, how do I respond to people when they're asking me the questions that, hey, nothing happened, you know, Mike's a big fake, Begley, you're a fake, you know, blah, blah, blah. Help me to help them understand that no. We're in the process, and I think you said this is about a 2-year process that we're going to deal with this.
Yeah, I think people are looking for some type of instant doom and gloom, right?
Yeah.
And they're looking for the entire world to blow up, you know, just at one given date. Well, those the 26th is a date for a threshold when some particles begin to come in on a steady basis, and there will be some effects from that. It's not going to be the end of the world,
right.
and there's really no preparatory thing a person can do because they've been going through sporadically small things like this, but the 25th and 26th is a threshold to which these particles will begin to build. They'll begin to build, and the folks who think they I guess their imaginations or something. They want it to be the end of the world, and then when it doesn't happen, they're upset because they have to deal with life another day. You know.
Yeah, we're not really talking about the body of Christ here either. I can tell you, the body of Christ has a different perspective of what is taking place because they've read the Bible, they've watched these shows, they're here every day. They've listened to you at COT. They realize that the earth is going to go through this Isaiah 24 scenario and Matthew 24 or whatever. And we don't have any fear. I mean, we're kind of like, look, we know the world's going to eventually come to an end. We're getting ready. We're getting our lives right with Christ. But it's the people out there who we're trying to reach, who we're trying to get to come to Jesus Christ. If the world don't blow up, then they got to deal with life, and they're not happy with life anyway. I'm going to step back and let you talk.
Well, because they look for this. Here's the sad part, though. This is going to be a very real, not so good scenario. They've had a lot of things told in the past, right, that didn't come to pass. And I think that all these failed things that people have prophesied and said things of that nature has really gotten a lot of people upset. But again, this is from an observation of something that happens in the heavens. And when you're dealing with science, science is going to change based upon the observation. It's not prophetic. This is by observation.
Right.
And so you watch these things as they come in. Here's the sad fact, though. Those who are not aware of this, as it begins to take an effect, they're going to be driven crazy trying to find the cause. As it turns out, in most situations, those who are really afraid of life changes or they want to escape totally have not thought the entire thing through. It is not fun to deal with radiation. You know, some of our own troops know this through dealing with depleted uranium, and then they have sicknesses that are just not good. right?
No, that's
Chronic
right.
fatigue and things of that nature, and strange rashes on the body and this, that, and the other. But this effect is going to take place slowly but surely all over the world, but the earth changes. How it's going to change the earth will be devastating. It will be devastating. That radiation will begin to kill plant life. That radiation is going to destabilize the crust of the earth as it begins to build inside the earth that energy, right? Inside of the earth, that moving iron that's inside the earth that nobody can see, nobody knows. You can't observe this by the eye. It's quite violent inside of the earth. When that begins to go up, then you're going to notice some changes. I certainly do hope that people are boiling water to see how long it takes for that water to boil so they can track atmospheric changes and a type of compression event. I know these things are confusing, and people are naturally not going to believe anything until it hits them. Right? But the deal here is that you're not going to have to explain to those folks that it was true or not. That won't be the conversation. The conversation is going to be, well, how can I mitigate the circumstances of this or that? That's what the conversation will be.
Well, let me read a little bit of what you said the other night. One of the things you said, there will be a lot of earth changes. I'll read Heidi's notes. It says, it should start seeing auroras in December. The sky will change to a golden color, some kind of a golden color a little bit. Radiation levels will increase, drying out the earth. There's a gag order on reporting increased radiation levels. The Geiger counters have been recalibrated not to show the true numbers. Vegetation will die off as the photosynthesis will be interrupted, and plants will bud out of season, and droughts will get severe. Can you take us and take it from there on that one?
That's right. That's right. So you're seeing a total depletion of our normalcy in this world, and so as this is coming in, it's coming in. You tell people these things and they can't see it. I wish they could see it so they could be mentally prepared for the effects of it, for what's going to happen down the road. Now, some of these changes could be very immediate, just very immediate, and you wouldn't even know. But most of these things, as far as food and things of that nature, this is going to be from a change in the sky, particles in the heavens, a change in the chemistry of our atmosphere. People are going to find it very difficult to breathe in certain places. The earth is going to begin to emit more and more gases and fumes. Right now, we're watching a methane problem right now. So, and things like this will continue to happen. Methane by itself is harmless when it's mixed into the atmosphere, and concentrations mixed with CO2, then you have a problem. So we're going to see some people won't wake up once the earth begins to get active inside. And no one's going to talk about the radiation. That's why they stopped their conversation on Fukushima. When Fukushima happened, some people went out there and they went and just got Geiger counters and they did their due diligence to protect themselves from radiation, only to find out something strange happened with the Geiger counters. Right? They were recalibrated in a lot of cases. Now, the people who had the older ones have different readings than the newer ones. And so you can't even trust that anymore. We have too many nuclear reactors that are leaking. They want people to never talk about radiation. That's one topic you never hear about radiation. You don't hear about it.
No.
And you're certainly not going to hear about the buildup. NASA's not covering the radiation doses. I mean, they may now, because normally after a conversation like this, and once it gets out, people begin to talk about it, and they pull the analytics from it. They'll begin to cover their tracks, saying, okay, something happened in the sun, increasing the radiation on Earth, or it's normal, or something like that.
Mike,
and they'll continue to do that until people begin to notice the greatest cost, which is both to their health. The crust of the earth is going to totally dry out. Food is not going, right now, all the food stores are just about drained. They're gone. They're empty. They're empty. And so people aren't going to pay attention until it comes to their front door.
Right. Mike, let me just tell you something else as we're on this. You said, and you're the guy that broke the word 5 waves of energy 4 years ago. And then, of course, the rest of the scientific world is to sit back and wait for observation. You obviously have access to certain meters and readings that Dutch Sense doesn't have access for, or BP Earthwatch, or any of the others, Suspicious Observer, or some of these other guys at Nibiru 2016, and Steve Olson, all these guys, all Anthony Patch, all these guys, okay, brilliant men who don't have access to what you have access to because you brought it up 4 years ago. I go to the Bible, and of course I can see that the things you're saying and the things they are observing is actually recorded in the prophecies. So I know that eventually these things have to come to pass, and my job is to tie it together with all the current events every day, just try to figure out in a way to keep people aware of where we're at in biblical prophecy. Now, you said that you won't hear anything out of NASA till 2 weeks before the wave is going to come, and then they'll start to speak. Exactly 2 weeks to the day before the 26th of December, NASA comes out and starts talking about pulsing waves of energy. They say it's because a star was ripped apart by a black hole, releasing a supernova release of gamma rays that are been headed toward the Earth for some time now and should start arriving. So NASA is starting to put their spin on what you've been talking about. They've got to build their narrative. And so what we're trying to do is understand what's really happening in conjunction to their narrative. Am I right by saying this?
Yes, because they're going to continue to do that and until they go hide themselves, which is what they're going to do. You know, it's amazing because in the Bible itself it says the world won't know anything. It was comparing the days of Christ to the days of Noah.
Yeah.
And in the book of Matthew, right after he said, as it was in the days of Noah, they were buying and selling, marrying, giving in to marriage until the flood came and took them all away. And then it says, and they knew not. They didn't know anything.
They didn't know.
Until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also, that'll be just like the coming of the Son of Man. So the world is going to continue to listen to the excuses of what are the propaganda that the world puts out to explain away things. They're going to continue to do this, but there's coming a day very, very soon, Pastor Paul. They know they won't be able to explain it away. But then at that point, they're going to be totally withdrawn. And then folks are going to be left up top in lawlessness is what's going to happen. Because how do you explain away a golden sky? How do you explain away plasma conduits reaching the earth, frying everything in their path? Right? Not lightning, but sustained plasma conduits. How do you explain that? And when the heat gets incredibly hot on the face of the earth and there's no plant life, how do you explain that? Right? So they're not going to be able to do it.
They're going to be already hiding. They're already going to be down in their bunkers hiding. Let me read some more comments you made. Let me read this, Mike. This is some more, because people have been saying to me, Pastor, why are you withholding information if Mike shared it with you? Well, I basically wasn't withholding it. I shared a little bit on a live show, and before I have a chance to bring Mike on for the rest of what he's shared with me, we have a wave of energy that's discovered, and here it is. So here's what else Mike said, okay? And then I'll let Mike take it from there. He said, Paul, there's going to be a meteor storm, cosmic particles of nickel and iron pellets causing fires. These meteor storms have already happened on the moon and on Mars. And then he says the Earth's crustal displacement, rock and magma, is moving beneath the surface, and sulfur and methane gases prepare for an ash environment, which you've said that before. Dangerous volcanoes like Tommaso and Italy. Also, the water beneath the ocean is superheated. Many of the fish die-offs have already been boiled to death. Then Mike goes on to say the sun. The sun is impacting the earth. The earth is very vulnerable right now. The earth is wobbling, and electromagnetic properties are changing. And 3 other planets also are changing. When our magnetic shields went down, so did 3 other planets. There is, of course, another sun or binary system. So, and there's more you say about Saskatchewan. You said the Earth will lose its orbit. There'll be new fault lines like in Ontario and Saskatchewan and Iowa, all the way from Iowa to Louisiana and the Dakotas. So, Mike, I'm going to go back up here to the solar cosmic storm and the effects on the Earth's crustal displacement. Walk us through that.
As this radiation, cosmic radiation, is introduced, it will cause hyperactivity in the core of the Earth. So that translates into additional heat. Well, the Earth is perfectly balanced. You got to remember, the interior of the Earth has been rotating for so long under its own momentum, right? And it's not slowing down. So it's perfectly balanced. So with the influx of radiation, which equates into joules or energy, it's going to super energize the core of the Earth. When that happens, magma and the molten iron are going to move much faster. When that takes place, it turns what was once rock into magma itself. And so that molten chamber will begin to expand. As it expands, it's going to push the plates apart like we've never seen before. Magma will seep through the cracks, through these fault lines and everything else. Subduction zones. Magma will begin to seep through those things too. And so with this, what you're going to have is an event that's already taking place in the South Pacific Ocean, where nickel in South Pacific and the North Atlantic, you have nickel coming up from the seafloor. Nickel is found deep inside of the Earth, and it's coming up from the seafloor, cooking everything it comes in contact with. And there are lots of life forms that live in very hot environments in the Earth, at the bottom of the ocean, but not like this. And so that's coming up from the core of the Earth. So what we see is an expansion of the core of the Earth, which will certainly begin to shift the continents. So then the foundations of the Earth, what holds it stable and everything else, is going to change. It's going to change.
You know,
you're looking at an expansion event. And as the core of the Earth changes, the sun's light will become brighter and brighter and brighter until something else comes in, and then you have a photon exchange. And the photons won't reach Earth. They'll be consumed back into something else. And then we're in real trouble. But the changes of the Earth will be so devastating. People, I often spoke about droughts with floods at the same time. I kept speaking about that at least for 2 years because it's the most deadly. If these droughts are not going to let up, with the Earth heating up from the inside out this summer, even right now, this winter, with all the moisture we've had, with all the precipitation in certain places, we're still in a drought. We're still in a drought. And crops, well, with the radiation changes, they're not going to bud because the electromagnetic properties of the Earth are going to shift and change.
So photosynthesis
is going to
change. And folks, what he's saying is exactly what Jesus said was going to happen in the last days. We just don't want to hear about it right now. Okay? Jesus said it was going to happen. I'm not some crazy. I'm not Woody Harrelson in the movie 2012 in a little trailer with up on top doing a YouTube video hollering, "It's so beautiful. I see it coming." Folks, Jesus said that the heavens are going to shake. Jesus said there will be famines and pestilences or diseases, earthquakes in diverse places. There's an Old Testament prophecy that says that hell has to be enlarged, and that without measure. Mike, you just said something a minute ago that you said some of the solid rock in the core of the Earth area, or on our way to the core of the Earth, some of the solid rocks will start to heat up and turn and melt. That will create crustal displacement. I would think that would mean that the Earth would start cracking open, and we'd have not only these huge cracks and new fault lines, but huge sinkholes and volcanoes. the core of the earth is going to expand because it's going to become liquid lava, magma, molting from this energy that's pounding. Is that a layman's terms? Am I correct?
Yes, because the earth will absorb that energy. Even with solar winds, the earth will absorb the energy from solar winds, shooting it into the poles. And come to find out, it's at the poles that's feeding the dynamo inside of this planet. So the more energy introduced, right, the greater the heat becomes. The greater the heat, the more it melts. The more it melts, the bigger it becomes, and then you begin to have a crustal type displacement event, which means rock will begin to shift too suddenly. Those are large earthquakes. Large. Even right now with the small earthquakes, the earth is shaking itself to pieces.
Yeah, it is.
See, we think everybody looks. One of the premises of this is that everybody looks for the big earthquake, right?
Right.
Here's what they're missing. The earth is constantly vibrating, right? So all those little ones over the course of time are doing enough damage, the same damage as a big one, just not all at one time. And this will begin to increase. And so the average person out there who likes to deny prophecy and everything else, of course they're not going to see it until their house falls. We've had sinkholes and everything else. Right? Sinkholes from caverns in the earth that have been the water, moisture, oil, and everything else has been sucked out of it.
Right.
And then you have these large caverns which just poof, they give away. Right? And they're becoming larger and larger. But the average person won't see this. And then, so you have the Christians of whom Jesus did warn about this. In other words, he said, take note of these things. Don't have fear about them, but take note.
Right.
Because prophecy is what God is going to do, right? We're not forecasting anything that he might do. He told us exactly what he's going to do. So from that aspect, I have no issue with that. There's no fear in me about anything that comes upon the earth, but for some folks who deny prophecy, who don't want things to change, who want Jesus to be the person they have imagined, who want God to be the one that they have imagined, they have gone astray, and they're really overlooking things. I'll give you another example, Pastor. This, when the crops die, when they're dead, well, then what are people going to do? Then there will be a control mechanism that will that people will beg to go to FEMA camps.
They will beg to get in. They'll be knocking on the door
and everything else.
They'll be knocking on the door of the FEMA camps, begging to get in so that they can eat. They will sell their soul to the beast to eat because they don't have any. Because as a Christian, you have to walk by faith, not by sight. We don't live in fear. My heart has no fear of the end time in it because it's filled with the faith that I get from the Word of God. And I'm interested in what's happening. I understand that just shows me how closer we are and the prophetic time we're in. But there's no fear. But imagine not having Jesus in your life, Mike. Imagine having no hope of the resurrection, no hope of the coming of the Lord, and living only on what you can consume and touch and feel today, and fearful of invasion, fearful of famines, fearful of earthquakes, fearful to the point you'll run to a FEMA camp and beg to get in. And they will, won't they, Mike?
Yeah, they will, and that's a very dangerous scenario. We have placed so much trust. Believe it or not, we place a lot of trust in scientists rather than the Father.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
We trust in the foundations of the earth, which means the stability of the earth, and the pillars of heaven, which means the stability of the heavens, and we shouldn't have done that. We should have trusted all in the Father, realizing these things will change in His timing, but they will change. And then we wouldn't walk around with that fear and could stand as examples of somebody else. And with respect to imagining not having the Lord then, Pastor, I can't imagine me not having the salvation over me right now.
Right now.
I could not survive with a thought knowing that without Christ I am filthy and dirty
Amen.
and corrupt and everything you could ever think about. I am condemned absent Christ.
Amen.
And that is truly a gift in my life, which is salvation. And He gave that to me because I accepted Him, which is probably why I'm not hurt with what anybody says. right?
Right.
Because I know a lot of people dispute the wave of energy and this, that, and the other, just all different facts. But I'm not working, so they believe me. I have to do what the Lord has given me to do. And if I do so with a good conscience, from a standpoint of truth and truth only, then I have done what the Lord has called me to do, and I have a clear conscience about it. And so then when things begin to happen subtly, now I give an example of something, and it's the Father. When you it's okay to pick a roundabout date for something, but when things begin to happen on the exact date that you spoke, well, then people ought to pay attention.
Right.
Because it's, whoever's telling you it's not to get their picture in the paper.
No.
It's not to be famous.
No.
It's so that the body of Christ can mentally prepare for these things so they won't have heart attacks when they begin to learn what's coming up on the earth. Father doesn't want us to have heart attacks, and these things are coming. And my explanation, even the things that we talked about, Pastor Paul, minuscule, that there's no way to actually convey some of the horrors that are in store for this earth. But I know this. That is the full wrath of God, right? But we're going to see a lot of things before the wrath ever gets here.
I know.
We're going to be tried and tested in a deep way. We're going to be proven who we are from the inside out. And in a time of distress, that's when we find out who we are. In a time of distress.
Amen. Mike, that is the refiner's fire. That's the fuller's soap. That's the test. That before we ever talk, forget the wrath of God, folks. You're not going to be here for the wrath of God. That's the judgment of God. That's the ultimate destruction, that God's final judgment upon the planet. No, before we ever get there, we're going to go through some testing like you won't believe. And this is why we have to share this with you. Because if we don't, let me tell you something. There's a massive amount of Christians who have been told this fairy tale that it's a fluffy, puffy, pat-a-pew Christianity, this cotton candy Christianity, that everything is going to be just fine and come up roses and you never have to worry. Folks, there are people already suffering, being beheaded, being executed, being crucified, being raped and murdered. And this is just the beginning of the sorrows that come up on the planet. Has nothing to do with the wrath of God, has everything to do with the evil of the heart of mankind, which brings the wrath of God. And so we're still here until he comes to take us. And we still got a ways. We got some things we got to get through, and we're just now starting to see them manifest in many areas. I'm going to read one verse, Mike. Mike, is there any way you could come back? I want you to check out what they've done. Is there any way you can come back, let's say Thursday? I don't know what your schedule's like, but or Thursday.
Thursday is good.
Okay.
Thursday is
Let's
good.
take some time. That way I'll bring in for at least a full hour, and we'll get back into this, because this is unbelievable. And I really appreciate you on a spare of the moment. And I apologize. I was traveling. I just couldn't. This happens, and then I'm on a plane. I'm like, what? And people even emailed me and said, what are you doing in the air? There's radiation. There's gamma rays. Look, folks, we don't live in fear here, okay? Mike, Thursday, all right?
Will do.
All
I
right.
appreciate it, Pastor.
God bless
you.
Thank you so much. Amen.